Hey, welcome to The Complete Advisor. We are so glad that you've joined us today for today's conversation. Joining me out of Sioux City, Iowa, we have Mike Nash of MG Nash Financial Solutions. Mike, great to have you here.
Thanks, Dennis. It's good to be here.
It's good to see you. It's always good to have you make the trip on down, and we've got some exciting things to talk about. But one of the things that I did want to talk about, kind of our overarching theme for today's conversation, is a lot of people may not know this about you, but you started your career when you came out of college or the military?
Well, when I came out of the military, I got drafted out of college. My birthday was number one in the lottery back in '69. So when I got out of college, Dennis, I went straight into the service for a couple of years and went to Vietnam, came back, and then I went back and got my graduate degree and then started my first job as a teacher and a coach.
I think that the natural thing to say is thank you for your service.
Thank you.
The other thing that's just fascinating to me is the total tangent here, but the citizen soldier, the non-professional soldier, the guy who were you originally from Iowa?
Yes, I am.
So farm kid from Iowa goes to college, and the next thing you know, he's over in Vietnam.
Right.
And golly.
And glad to serve. I really was. I'm proud of this country, and I'm not so sure it would be a good idea if everyone, male or female, coming out of high school or college, serves a couple years, serves their country somehow, in some sort of fashion, whatever it might be. Doesn't have to be the service necessarily, but I think that this is a great place to live. We're blessed. We're so fortunate. And I just fear for what the future might look like if we don't take more pride in what we have here. And, we've been blessed with the greatest country on earth. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, we live in the best part of the best country on earth.
I agree too.
Yeah.
I agree too.
Great place to be.
Okay, so you come out of the military, and you didn't go into the financial services industry. You took was what I'm going to ask you where you went? Was that what you went to school for, teaching and coaching?
It was. I knew early on, Dennis, that and I shared this before, but I have three brothers that are all within 2 years and 11 months of my age. So there's twin boys in there. So we had four of us in high school at the same time, four in college at the same time. We all went to the same college and played in the same college football team for 1 year. When I was a senior, my twin brothers were freshmen, and I had a brother who was a junior. So it was quite unique. I don't know if that's ever been done before, but no, I love sports. I love athletics, and I knew that's what I wanted to do for a living. And when I got my first teaching, coaching job, I felt as though I've made it. I mean, this is it. This is my dream job. I'm going to do this for 40 years and retire with a nice pension and call it good. But that's not how things worked out.
So you're teaching. You're high school or elementary? No,
it was head football coach at a high school level in Northwest Iowa. I had head football and head track.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. It really was. I enjoyed it. If I could have made more money at it back in those days, this was back in the '70s. The base pay at that time was $7,200 a year. If you can imagine.
Gosh!
Yeah. So it's a long time ago, and even then, $7,200 wasn't a lot of money.
It was a job you took for love.
It was. It really was. I knew that's what I wanted to do. I had tremendous respect for the coaches I had in high school and college, and they were sort of mentors in a way. I had fabulous parents, but I had some other good people that mentored me along the way, and I knew that I wanted to expand on that. I wanted to be a teacher coach. I wanted to work with young men. And, I think this is all about, no matter what we're doing, whether it's the profession we're in now or what I was doing in teaching and coaching, it's about trying to get people to see themselves in a different light and doing some things and becoming some sort of a person that maybe they're not now, and just giving them hope and aspiration and just coaching them along the way. And that's what I did. It's just, I mentioned on the TV show that, we always start with the end in mind when we're talking about retirement planning, retirement income planning. We're talking about coaching. We're talking about where are we going to be in 3 months or 3 years or 30 years. If you can see that, Dennis, and then walk your way back and take the steps that need to be put in place to get there, that's what's exciting to me, to see others succeed and, just feel that maybe you're a small part of their success.
Yeah.
And there's nothing better than that. That's the greatest feeling in the world.
So how did you go from teaching and coaching on the track and the football field to teaching and coaching in the financial services side? How did that transition happen?
Well, I want to be honest with you. It wasn't exactly my choice at the time. My wife, my third year of teaching and coaching, my wife now was pregnant with our third daughter. Our plan all along was once the 3 kids are here, she's going to stay home with the kids, and we're going to figure out some way to live on one income. But as I just mentioned, it wasn't much income.
$7,200, yeah.
So we went from 2 incomes because she was a lab tech at a hospital in a nearby community, and so she made a decent income for back then too. And the 2 of us with just 2 kids, it worked out fine. But now with 1 income and 3 kids, it wasn't working too well, and the budget was very, very tight. And you didn't have to be too smart to manage that budget because there wasn't much money there.
Yeah.
So I had a friend in financial services, and one day he said to me, he said, Mike, you got to give this a shot. He said, I've been there before. He was a teacher and a coach. He was about 5 years older than me, and he said, you got to give this a shot. And I thought, sure, I'll try this for 6 months, but this is not what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And in hindsight, Dennis, I think it was a blessing in disguise is what it was. Because I'm doing the same thing I was doing then. But I'm doing with a different age group, obviously, different demographic. But the concepts, the ideas, and what we're trying to get across to people, it hasn't changed that much.
It's all block and tackle.
It is. It is. Yeah, you're getting right back to the basics, aren't you?
Yep.
And that's what we're doing in this business. And we talk about trying to keep it simple in this business. And you're right. It's all about relationships. It's all about having a plan, following the plan. Now, sometimes we say, well, that's pretty simple. Well, it can look pretty simple, but sometimes it's not so easy either. So a lot of parallels, but I couldn't be happier with where I'm at right now. I'm with a great organization here with Creative.
Thank you.
And you guys do a fabulous job. I wouldn't have the success I've had the last 3 or 4 years now without people like Dennis and some others around here that have you're doing the same thing I'm doing, Dennis. You're coaching too, at a little bit different level, but that's what you're doing. You're giving us ideas and suggestions on how we can improve, which I really appreciate. So, we're all giving back in one way or another, and it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
I think that's invaluable.
So one, thank you. It's so great to get to work with talented people like yourselves. But let's talk. So here's what I'm curious to talk about in the direction I want to take us here is, so you've been teaching. You were teaching before. Now you're teaching the financial side. And one of the things that is always a challenge as an advisor is getting your message out there to people that need to hear it. And one of the things that I think is so cool about your practice, I'm looking at my notes, but you've done / are doing just about everything in your market to really get yourself out there. And I wanted to walk through those with you and hear a little bit about them from your side. You've done webinars. You've done seminars, radio ads. I saw that you were even on. You even did a video with. I might mispronounce his last name, but is it Kevin Harrington, like one of the original Shark Tank sharks?
Yes.
Which that is so cool. I love that show.
It is cool. It is cool.
And then we had you in here today for. You're doing television.
I am. First time ever. Those create some anxious moments, but I will tell you that after the experience I've had in the last few hours, being with, again, some professionals who know what they're doing, Jay and Russ and that whole team. And
absolutely.
And they do a great job. I mean, I really appreciate it. Of course, Michelle is the host for the show. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that, and they make you feel so comfortable. And so we're trying different avenues. I'll be honest with you, Dennis, I don't think I'm a marketer. So what I've got to do is I got to try a lot of different things to figure out what's your niche, what works best. And yeah, we're not a big community back home. About 80,000 people is all it is. And so what I do most of the time, I spend my time on retirement income planning. But at the same time, in a smaller community, I think you have to keep yourself open to the idea that there's other markets out there too, and so you've got to be pretty well versed in other areas. Yeah. And you got to find ways, marketing ideas and concepts where you can reach a broader market. Because I think we've got to have 6, 7, 8 different prongs to this marketing plan that we put together. Because I know in my heart that there might be 2 or 3 of them that are producing nothing at one time, but we have 1 or 2 that hopefully are. But that it may be interchanged over a matter of 4, 6 months, or a year, where direct mail maybe wasn't working and now it is, or seminars were working but now they aren't. So I'm anxious to see what happens as a result of what we did today and tomorrow, the TV shows, and just to see if people are receptive to that, if we get phone calls. But one way or another, I think it's probably the teaching and coaching background, but I'm really, part of our mission statement at the office is we're going to do everything we can to be the best educators we can of people about the things that we think they need to know in order for them to enjoy the rest of their lives at whatever phase of life they're in. So I'm open to different ideas. You professionals down here have been very good about throwing some ideas out there and saying, hey, you might want to try this or that. Sure. And that's why I'm down here. I mean, how do you pass up an opportunity to come down here and spend some time with people who are trying to make you better and your practice better? And you could sit there and say, well, what's in it for you? Well, to me, Dennis, yeah, I'm paid for what I do, but at the same, and you are too. But I think a greater reward is giving back. And I think we're all here to do that.
I think, you know what I think? What I'm really interested to see, and you're 100% right, because we all do this to make money because we have bills to pay and we have things that we want to do in our lives. But I don't know that that's necessarily how we keep scores, not with the dollar, but with these different ways that we individually look and measure success. And yours is if I'm be so bold, but yours to me appears to be the ability to take and get somebody to understand these serious financial decisions that they need to make, but then help them make them, but get them, like you were saying, to that end goal, which is a successful and happy retirement.
Right.
And you've helped hundreds. I mean, you've been thousands probably of people retire by now.
Well, I've been at this for 40 years, Dennis, and so I'd like to think we've touched a lot of lives in a positive way. It means the world to me when a client says that we wouldn't be where we're at without what you had done for us. Now, that sounds nice, but people still, they did it. You may have introduced them to some ideas that would fit their situation, and hopefully in the end there'd be enough fruit there that they'd have a greater retirement. But at the same time, they made the sacrifices. They were diligent. They did what they had to do. So again, it's a team effort. I mean, I don't think any of us accomplishes anything of value by ourselves. And so it is a team effort. And so we're working together, which is very enjoyable. And then what I'm doing is working with clients back home. But we're all, I think, trying to make each other better in what we're doing.
Yeah.
And part of that's challenging each other. And what you're doing today is you're challenging me. In there doing that TV spot, that's a challenge. I'm not going to
get you out of your comfort zone.
It really did. I had some anxious moments. I wasn't sure I wanted to do this. I'm glad I did. I'm glad I'll come back tomorrow and we'll do another show. So it's life is just, it's full of challenges, and we're not going to grow if we don't take on those challenges. That's right. I think just to sit back and just be happy with where you're at and content at the level you're at. And I'm not just talking about income wise, but are we doing everything we can to make sure that we're enriching the circle of friends and family that we have? And so you can start talking about church and nonprofits and charities and things like that. And I'd like to think that we're all blessed enough that what we can do is beyond the realm of what we do in the financial services area, is to touch the lives and the organizations and institutions that are out there that are trying to do real good things for people who are less fortunate than us. It might be Wounded Warriors. It might be, Special Olympics. There's all kinds of organizations that provide food for needy children that are starving to death. I mean, I tell people in retirement income planning that, in the end, I want you to have an abundant retirement. And so when I say that, what I'm really talking about is that I want them to become the person they want to be, doing things that they want to do with people they want to be with. But the fourth element of that, I think, is being able to support the causes that are near and dear to you, that you have on your heart. And sometimes they're not thinking that when they come in the office. But I want them to know that that's a prong of the retirement income process that we use, and simply saying, look, if we can design this to the point where you can live the way you want to live, are there excess assets there, resources that we can use to expand and go beyond you? Wouldn't we all love to have a life of significance?
Yeah.
I mean, income is one thing, but I wish I could remember the author or the book, but it was an author who said that, when you get to the point where you've attained the goals you want in life, isn't it important to start thinking about how you can affect so many other people out there and how you can live a life of significance now instead of just living a life of material things, so to speak?
Yeah.
It goes beyond that.
A greater point. What's a greater purpose just beyond ourselves?
Exactly.
It's interesting. That's an interesting thought, because I think for most of us, we probably don't realize or don't think that that's something that we could attain. We think of that maybe as the Rockefellers or the Carnegies or somebody like that has the big foundation. And instead it's just like, well, I'm just a regular person. And then you have this conversation, well, I'm just a regular person that, well, wait, I could do something greater.
Yes. Exactly.
How does that resonate with people?
I guess it depends, Dennis, on who I'm talking to and where their heart's at. With some people, they look at it and they say, I never really thought about that, but if we can figure out some way we can do that, I might be interested. Maybe they want to leave the $100,000 to their church or whatever organization they're fond of. And what's so great about what we do, what you do and I do and our whole organization is that in this business, unlike any other, and I mean this, I think next to the ministry, we have an opportunity to impact more lives in a positive way than any other profession out there.
We really do.
And it all comes about as a result of a couple things, I think. But number one is that our industry, I think, has really stepped up in the last 10, 15, 20 years and come up with some creative ideas, some creative products and financial tools that we can use that we didn't have access to before. When you and I started in this business, Dennis, I can't speak to you about your situation necessarily, but I mean, I got a rate book, and they said, "Good luck, go get them. It's term insurance or a whole life." And maybe
don't forget, you can give them a little price break if they do monthly automatic checking.
There you go.
Back to that.
No, it's a good point. I forgot about that, Dennis. But so I think that the products that we have today are part of it, but we can take those products and we can leverage like nobody else can in what we do. So if you really want to leave $100,000 to your church, for really a small amount of money, talk about leveraging, most people, if they're healthy, as an example, and this is one small example, but they can buy a $100,000 life insurance policy for pennies on the dollar and leave it to their church, and they could get some tax deductions for doing some of these things. But there's all kinds of creative ways to set things up so that people can attain the goals that they want they never thought of.
That speaks also, that fits in with the point you just made. So I've been in the business now for, I think it's like 30 years, which is weird to say. But the sophistication and the professionalism, because I've for most of my time I've been on this side of the desk when it comes to working with advisors. You do the hard stuff. We just, we make sure that you have everything you need. But the sophistication of advisors of when I started in this business back in the early 90s to now, so the education, and just like what you said, the continued pursuit of education that you do is a testament to that. And what you're able to offer clients, those kind of planning concepts, that's really cool.
Right. No, it really is. And the first thing we have to do, obviously, is establish the relationship. Because if we don't have the likability factor going, if we don't have the trust factor going, if we don't have the relationship that we can establish with them, then we've probably lost them.
Yeah.
This is all about relationships and trust. And I tell people this at our seminars that we do. Look, when we get done, they've either listened to me for an hour and a half or 3 hours, depending on the seminar. They have a pretty good idea who I am and what I'm all about after 3 hours. So when they come in the office, Dennis, I don't want to say it's like old home week, but we've got a pretty good idea. I have a pretty good idea who they are and a little bit about them, and they have the same about me. So we're not exactly starting at first base at this point. So it's pretty easy to get into that conversation about what I can do to help them and whether they're open-minded to those ideas. So there's ideas. Once you've established the relationship, it's kind of interesting because if you ask enough open-ended questions, they will tell you what direction they want you to go with that conversation. You just have to let them lead you into it. So that's something that probably every day I don't do the best job of. But I'm learning. You know, I've only been in the business 40 years, so I'm learning.
That's right. So you know what? That's interesting. You're right, because of everything that you're doing between seminars, webinars, TV, and radio. You're laying this. You're introducing yourself. You're letting people get to know you. This TV spot is what we're doing with you on TV is going to be fantastic. I am very excited to watch that and see how that fits in and how it goes. But so people really get to know you. So how was it during the? We all went through the pandemic time, and I remember you doing webinars. Talk a little bit about that, getting that because you were such a likable guy, like it's ridiculous. Oh. And so getting people, because, all they see is this, the screen here of that, and then getting those people to become clients.
Dennis, let me say this. If the pandemic never went away, I'd be in trouble. Because I remember you trying to coach me through.
Oh, you guys did great.
Coaching me through one of those, and Look, I'm a face-to-face person. Let's just put it that way. Yep. I mean, seminars are a lot of work, but I would rather be in front of somebody face-to-face than anything else. Webinars,
they're hard.
They're hard. Yeah. They are. And I think if I was forced to do those for 6 or 12 months, I probably could do them okay. Nothing like what you could do them. I'm not a technology guy, but at the same time, I'm glad I had to go through that experience because it stretched me. I grew a little bit. I learned a lot of things from you and going through that. Some things that actually helped me with seminars and some other things we're doing. So, I don't have any regrets about that. I had a lot of anxious moments doing those. We actually had a few sales off of it, but it's not something that I would care to do every week. Yeah. That's not how I want to promote the business, let's say.
You guys had on your first, I think it was your first one, a is this thing on moment that I remember, and it was just so awesome. I actually think that if that didn't get you a couple clients, then nothing would, because it was like just the honesty of that moment, and it's just like, God, you just love this guy.
I tell you what.
You just love this guy.
Dennis, if I've heard it said that when you're going to speak and you're going to jump up on the stage, and I forget who it was, but somebody jumped up on the stage and they tripped and fell over, they were flat on their face, and someone said to me later, they said that, you know what, that's probably the best thing he could have done. Because now everybody can relate to this guy. Yeah. I've done something silly like that too. So I'm sure there were people on the other end of these webinars thinking, "Oh my gosh, who is this guy?" But he's okay. Give him a chance. Yeah.
Are you still running any? Are you doing any virtual stuff? Like any appointments? Do you have any reviews, or is everybody face to face now?
Everybody's face to face. I mean, we're 95% of our clients are within 30 miles of the office.
Oh, gotcha.
And so they come into Sioux City, and we schedule a time to get together and review, and they don't mind the drive for the most part. Not a lot of them are seniors; they can like getting out of the house.
Yeah. I've driven up I-29 a million times, and I've gone right past the speed trap that's downtown. But what's the once you cross the border? Is it just North Sioux City, South Dakota, then, right? Or does it have a different name?
Well, you're probably it is North Sioux City, and that is in South Dakota, but the nicer area over there would be Dakota Dunes.
Yep.
In South Dakota. Good, nice golf course, Jack Palmer golf course. I mean, they've got some very nice facilities over there and houses and so on. So we're right on the corner of Nebraska, Iowa, and South Dakota, which creates some problems when it comes to licensing and your non-resident licenses and CE requirements and things like that. But it's kind of unique. We're not sitting in the middle of the state in Des Moines or something and just have to worry about licensure.
Would make it a little easier.
It would.
We have the same issue because if you're not familiar with where we're at, we are literally now in our new office. We're about 1.5 miles from the Missouri border, Kansas, Missouri, and the licensing, the products.
Yeah.
I mean, it is two different animals.
Yes.
So the TV. Let's talk about the TV because that is fascinating. So you were in there. You were across the hall in our new studio.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it. I saw the setup. A little jealous I didn't get to be on camera with you guys. But, so we had the 3 camera. We had the teleprompters. We've got Michelle, the professional host, who's fantastic.
She is.
And so you're filming episodes, and these are going to be on local TV, blasted out across that whole corner of the state, right?
Yeah, I talked to Jay and Russ about that, and it sounds like that it's going to be sometime after the election, so I guess mid-November, somewhere in there. And I thought it was just one TV station. We had 3 stations up there, and according to what they told me, it's going to be on all 3 stations. So I think it's, if I understand correctly, I believe it's a 6 o'clock a.m. and a 10 o'clock a.m. on Sunday mornings. And
oh, nice.
And how many weeks it's going to run, I'm not sure. I'm not sure they know exactly how that looks right now. But yeah, so I'll be excited to see. I tell you what, Jay's going to have to do a lot of work because he's going to have to edit and splice and whatever he does to make me look good through this whole thing.
I don't want to puff your ego, but I did get, I was monitoring the filming and such and getting some reports because I'm curious as all get out, and I heard you did pretty well.
Well, maybe for the first time. I mean, might be beginner's luck, but Michelle's fabulous, number one, and Jay and Russ and that whole team do a fabulous job. So, I mean, they did the hard work. I just get to come down here, and what an enjoyable time to come down and just, and just say what's on my mind, basically. And that's what we did, and hopefully it worked out okay. I'll be anxious myself, Dennis, to see how it turns out.
I think it's going to do great. Again, you got the likability factor. You're just such a genuine guy.
Well, you're nice. Thank you for saying that.
Well, so what's as you look into as we look into the next couple of years for you? You put on your Punxsutawney Phil hat.
Wow, that's a really good question. And we establish goals every year. I ask clients what their goals are. So Lynn, the office manager, and I, we sit down and we talk about what can we do this year, how are we going to do it. And my goal, I'm not a big hitter. I mean, you've got people that are writing 15, 20, 25 million a year, Dennis, and more, and some big shops, and they're doing fabulous. That's not us. We're in a smaller community. That's no excuse by any means. I know we have people in communities of 40,000 people doing twice as much business as we are. But the thing is that it seemed like usually what we're talking about when we say about what's your goal, the first thing that people think about is just like with us doing retirement income planning, what's your goal? Yeah. I think that's the wrong question to begin with right up front. Not that you're asking me the wrong question, but when I sit down and visit with people, that's always a tough question. I say, well, how much do we need each month in retirement to live the way you want to live, your lifestyle? And I think the question needs to be, what's your vision? How do you see retirement? And we have to make sure mom and dad are on the same page on this one.
That's a big one.
It's a big one. It really is. So when dad says, well, mom doesn't worry about the retirement thing, I'm taking care of it, I say, no, I'm not going to see you without her. You're going to have both of you in here because this whole thing is built on the two of you coming together as one, maybe for once, on the answer to this. But you two have to think this thing through. How do you want to live out your retirement years? And if we got the vision right and what they want to do, then, okay, what are the priorities? And then the goal, the money thing, then I think comes into play. So I'm asking people those two questions before we ever get to the money. So I think, Dennis, to answer your question, I'm sorry about getting sidetracked.
No, it's a beautiful sidetrack.
But I think when you ask me that question, we sit down and talk about, okay, can we write 8 million this year? Can we write 10 million? Obviously, everybody would like to get a little bit better in that category every year. But sometimes I look at that and say, maybe we didn't have a 10% increase. Maybe we didn't have a 20% increase. But at the same time, what other areas are there as far as goals go that we can look at and say, but you know what? We did impact lives. Maybe it wasn't financially, but there's a lot of other, as we just talked about a few minutes ago, there's a lot of other good things that we can do. We can leverage our own resources and our own talents right there without talking about money and enrich the lives of people in our community who really need it. So those are things that you don't necessarily maybe get credit for, at least down here. But at the same time, those are things that are important to us. in how we move forward.
Yeah, and the soul.
Yeah, exactly. So it's more than money. Everybody wants to live a good life, and we certainly have, and I'm sure that I know that you have, and most of us have around here. We are very blessed. So
Yeah, we are.
So we need to make sure that we give back in whatever ways we can and figure out what it is that tugs at our heart that says that, hey, you need to do this, or you need to do that. And those are things that as I get older, and I'm not young anymore, but as I get older, I realize how important those are.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of things that especially as we get older, you realize things matter differently. And different things move to the top of the list, and other things move to the bottom.
Right.
That is a cool thing to think about as a family, as a man, as a business owner, as you're setting goals or the things that you want to do, making sure that you're looking at all the things that go into that and all the things you want to achieve, because it's not just about dollars.
Right.
It's about quality of life. It's about, is the office off for a couple weeks?
Right.
Is Lynn taking care of it? Just all these different things.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Big challenges coming up in the next couple of years, you think, business-wise? Anything stick out to you?
Well, the biggest obstacle I always have, Dennis, is marketing. If we're gonna grow as a business, marketing is one thing. And I told people this day, I'm not good at marketing. That's where you guys come in. That's
right.
You're so good at it. And why wouldn't I lean on you people when you know what you're doing? And this TV show that we're talking about, I don't know how that's going to turn out. I just trust in you guys, just like I want clients to trust in me. So how do I get fed? I mean, who fills me up, with energy and ideas and things like that? So I come to creative. I say, okay, Dennis, I want you and your team and these other people down here. Yeah, you fill me up, get me energized and excited again, and you do it. So as far as challenges go, I mean, I think as long as we can stay focused on the things that are important to us, I think everybody has to decide what those priorities are in their lives. I'm not going to try to change anybody on that.
Yeah.
But I think that, what we have to do is just stay focused on the things that are really important to you. And you're right. It's not just money. I mean, family to me is more important than money. There's other things. There's noble causes and things that are far and above money that are important to me. But the challenges would be for me to grow personally and do better at what I do. If we're going to be here and we're going to do this, then don't you want to get better every day and every year at what you're doing somehow, some way? And I think that we've got to look to places that are going to, like I said, fill us up with energy and keep us excited, whether it's spiritually or physically or emotionally or whatever.
Yep.
I think that we need to spend some time doing that. We just need to sit back sometimes and just reflect on what's going on and how we can improve as individuals. And if we do that, if I grow as an individual in different ways I'm talking about here now, I think at the end of the day, even if we don't exceed our money goal from last year, I'm going to be pretty content. And it's all about me making sure that I'm answering to the right people.
Yep. Golly. You know what I got to tell you? That's a perfect spot for us to stop our conversation today.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Me too. I'm excited. I'm excited to watch this show. I'm excited to bump into you tomorrow because I know you're filming again. And I look forward to us meeting again in this room and talking about how the results came out. Maybe, that'll be November. So, man, this year's going fast, isn't it?
It is. It really is, yeah.
Maybe we catch up mid-spring, late spring.
Sounds good. That sounds good, Dennis. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for being here.
Okay,
Mike.
you bet.
This podcast is for financial professional use only and not for use with the general public. The information provided is the exclusive property of Creative One and is protected by copyright and other intellectual property laws of the United States. This material has been prepared for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to provide, and should not be relied upon for, accounting, legal, tax or investment advice. Creative One is not responsible for the results of programs discussed on this podcast or any liability stemming from the use of it. Although we may promote or recommend the services offered by this company, agents are ultimately responsible for the use of any materials or services and agree to comply with the compliance requirements of their broker-dealer and registered investment advisor, if applicable, and the insurance carriers they represent. Copyright 2022, Creative One Marketing Corporation.